Hello, guys. Welcome back to the ThinkerNick podcast. A very happy new year to everybody. I'm joined again with my co-host, Nicola. It's been a couple weeks since we've last done a podcast together, which is great. And today we have an amazing guest. She is from Florida, Tampa, Florida. Tai is an award-winning instructional designer, author, speaker, and marketing specialist. She is the CEO of That Marketing Team. She's a former teacher turned entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience marketing online. After helping hundreds of entrepreneurs leverage social media and online marketing as a coach, she stepped into the agency world to literally take marketing tasks off the plates of her clients. Tai launched That Marketing Team to support busy CEOs and business owners who are tired of trying to run their company and do all the marketing by themselves. The author of Girlfriend, It's Your Time, and co-author of The Profitable Woman's Playbook, her articles have been featured on the Huffington Post and the Forbes.com. She's also been highlighted by Money Magazine, Black Enterprise, and the Boss Network. Tai, welcome to the ThinkerNick podcast. How are you today?
I am so excited to have this conversation. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. So before we get into all the marketing, and there's so much that I want to squeeze out of you today, you were a teacher prior to becoming an entrepreneur.
I was, yeah.
Okay, so the first question I want to ask you is, were there any skills from teaching that you carried across to being an entrepreneur?
Oh, absolutely. So, I became a teacher because I like creating, I like writing content, I love creating lesson plans. And most of the business that we do in marketing is kind of like a big lesson plan, right? You've got an objective, you've got a goal. How are you going to get there? What do you need to do each day to get, there? So it's very similar to writing lesson plans or the marketing plans that we create for our clients and include with all the research that you do, right? As a teacher, you do the same kind of research when you're doing your marketing. So definitely brought that skill over. And then I would say too, today with all of the focus on video and short form video and just being able to have a presence in front of people, there's nothing like an elementary school classroom to prepare you for having to be on camera or being in front of people. So a lot of that carries over.
Yes, for sure. Nicola, I know you've done a lot of presentation work in your time. I've only ever presented, obviously, to students as of now. So let's dive into the marketing. Okay. So how would you define the marketing that you do today?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I would define the marketing that we do today is it has three components. Number one, it's based on data, right? We always start with strategy because we see a lot of people out there that are just throwing things into the wind. Oh, I think I'll try TikTok. I think I'll try Facebook ads. But we always have things that are based on strategy. Number two, our marketing is based on something that's interactive, which is why we started building quizzes for our clients because we want something that's going to be engaging with people. And then number three, our marketing is based on, I would say it's very content heavy. It's funny because for so long we were hearing that, people don't read, but then content marketing is ruling everything. So which one is it, right? So yes, people do read and people do consume content. So strategy, interactive, and heavily content based on what we focus on in our marketing.
Okay. And earlier you touched on short form content. And I'm trying to push, obviously, this podcast at the moment. And I've noticed that, just like you were saying, the longer the episode, obviously, consumer engagement kind of goes down. So what is your experience there with short form content production, and why do you think it's so powerful?
Well, I think the number one reason it's so powerful is because most people have short attention spans. Even, thinking about how many hours people spend on Instagram and Facebook and now YouTube, right? And none of us are spending like hours watching a video, but we will watch something that's 2 minutes or 3 minutes or even 30 seconds. And it's all about, can we capture somebody's attention? So when you see that trend, it makes sense that short form video is becoming more popular. And now when you get into things that are where people are going just beyond being aware of something and they want more detail, you can do a little bit longer form. But even longer don't mean it doesn't mean an hour. Longer means like 15 minutes or 20 minutes. So you said in my bio, my background is in instructional design. And when we would create online courses, one of the things we would do is we would chunk the content down, which means that we're not going to have you sit there for 30 minutes or 45 minutes watching a lesson. We're going to find a way to break those lessons down into 15-minute chunks, right? So you can get in and get what you need to go out. So it's interesting to see that that's what we're seeing happening with marketing, right? With content, is it's chunking it down so that people can get it.
Yeah. So, Nicola, you have developed some courses in your time. How do you
Mhm.
guys approach the marketing to those courses? Is it the same? Do you chunk them into bits, shorter form, or do you do the prolonged ones? How do you sort of market those?
Yeah, I think there's a distinction between the creation of the content and the marketing of the content. So what I'm hearing Tai say is that in the world of instructional design, it's very normal. It's actually a skill within the instructional design world that you actually create pieces of content that people can assimilate. So in essence, you sort of go from a piece of logic to a piece of logic to a piece of logic. So in essence, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create logical connections between pieces of content. And that's really, in my view, how learning takes place. If there's a gap in the content, so if something in that content is missing, you get you start to misunderstand your subject. So it's like if a child goes to school and they miss a lesson, let's say they miss a history lesson or geography lesson, and a piece of content is covered in that lesson and you've now missed it, you basically have to figure out and you fill in the gaps. Your brain creates its own logic, even if the content's not there. So I think what I'm hearing Tai say is that as an instructional designer, the role of a content developer is to create a logical sequence of learning so that it is sense making for the pupil, the learner. And Tai, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I think I'm hearing you say is that from a marketing point of view, there's sort of the upfront piece, sort of the engagement, let's sort of get your attention. And then from that attention, you create logical learning loops. So you try to take the potential customer down a path, and that path is logical to the point that they're sort of saying yes to your product or your service.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm comparing the similarities between those two. You know, if you've got
Mhm.
a larger course and you chunk things down, so this short form video is like micro chunking, right? So instead of it being like the 15-minute block that we create in a course, now
Yeah,
we've got a 2-minute block, right, that we're creating. But you're absolutely right, Nicola. It's that same logic and it's that same path. And I think people miss that sometimes with marketing. They're just out
yeah,
there creating stuff randomly instead of creating content that drives people down a specific path to get them to say yes. Or as we like to say, you get them to go from I'm interested, right, to I'm
yeah,
in, right? I'm interested, I'm going to pay attention, to I'm in, as in I'm going to invest in working with you. I'm in, I want to pay you. I'm in, I want your help.
yeah.
Okay. Cool. So, to give the listeners some sort of example, Ty, if we were to take this episode of the podcast, right, and we want
Right.
all the engagement, obviously we're not selling this, but we want all the engagement, we want to get a lot of listeners in. How do you differentiate what pieces to cut out? Are there
Mhm.
certain pieces that you target? What's your method or your strategy there?
Yeah, it goes into what are the questions that people are asking, right? And if people are asking, well, how do I create engaging content, right? Then we're going to find a snippet in here that talks about what's engaging and what's not engaging, right? Or we're going to talk about this whole idea of chunking and how small, how smaller pieces of your content, or that great screen grab that Nicola just did about the logic. Like that's a great way to get people's attention because it's visual. Right. Oh yeah, I want to, well, what's she talking about? I want to see that. And so once you've got their attention with that, then the next step is learn more, right? or get the complete steps or see the full version, but you've got to get their attention. And we always start by, what questions are people asking? And so questions could be, how long should my videos be? Right? What kind of topics should I include in my videos? Are my videos too long? Like all those little things that you could use as hooks to get people in, because that's what people are searching for.
Okay. And then when you push the content, the different tools or platforms that you would use, what would those platforms be? I mean, I know if you're selling a course, you'd probably sell it on a website. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Kajabi or
Mhm.
Kartra. You can build a course on there. Whereas if you just want people to view your podcast, it could be on YouTube. So what are the platforms and the tools that you would use to push the marketing of these courses or podcasts?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, in general speaking, it always goes to where your audience is. And my audience is, they're on LinkedIn, they're on Facebook, and they're on YouTube. And so we leverage those platforms, right? YouTube now has short form videos, right? So we can
Mhm.
push our content there. Facebook now has short form video. LinkedIn, I haven't seen short form video there, but we can still take our 3-minute videos and put them on LinkedIn and then drive traffic to those as well. So it really depends on where your audience is. And once you know where they are, you want to put as much content as you can so that you're highly visible to the people who are willing and able to pay you.
Okay. Nicola, do you
What
want to
about
touch on that?
Nick? What about Instagram, Tai?
Yeah, Instagram is great too. It really depends on where your audience is. So we get people that will follow us and like us on Instagram. We don't always get people who are our buyers on Instagram. And I think that's important to recognize that just because you have a lot of followers on a platform, it doesn't mean that's where the people are that are paying you. I spent 5 years in my business being Facebook rich and profit poor. Right? I had a whole bunch of people who loved me on Facebook. They were sharing my content. They would say, "Oh, Tai, you're so inspirational," but they were not buying anything from me, right? And I think we get caught up in the numbers. "Oh, I got all these followers." I'm like, "That's great. How many of those followers have you turned into sales?"
Mm,
Yeah.
I see. So then, based on the platforms that you do use, how do you yourself leverage those
Yeah.
to make sales?
Yeah, so we are really big on organic outreach and connections. And so we are in what people call, we're in the DMs, right? We're in those conversations with people. So we'll put a post out there, we'll put a video out there, and then someone will comment on the post, and then we're going to friend them. And then we're going to follow up with them and say, "Hey, it looks like
Ah,
you were watching our video. Hey, it looks like you had a question about X, Y, and Z. Right? Can I send you something else?
okay.
Can I share something else?" Because at the end of the day, no matter how big your pool gets, sales is still about building relationships with people.
Mm,
And I think a lot of people miss that. Like there's this myth that, oh, now that social media is here, I don't have to get to know people. I can just show up, make a video, and within 10 days, I'll go viral and people will buy my stuff. And that's just not how it works long term. That's not a long-term plan for success in your business. It really comes down to knowing your audience, making those connections, and following up. I had a client the other day. She was so excited because we teach about having a flawless follow-up system. That's one of the things that we give our clients. And she said that there was a person who, every time she had been reaching out to her over the course of, I think, like 3 or 6 months, and every time she would try to get the person on the phone, the person would go dark. And she said, finally, she reached out to her again. And the woman said, what happened was the woman responded to a post that she put on LinkedIn. And when a woman responded to the post, she went and sent her a message on LinkedIn. And the woman said, "Oh my God, yes." And she booked a call with her. Right.
okay.
And it's about the follow up and the touch point. It's, people don't buy the first time, they see you in most cases. And one of the things that we say, Nick and Nicola, we talk about how marketing is a lot like dating. And most people don't get married on the first date. Right? Like, we're not going to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And I'm
Mhm.
so glad that you touched on relationships there, because one of the biggest lessons I learned in my first year of business last year was it's all about relationships, whether it's marketing, building those partnerships, I don't know, getting sponsorships for your business. It all comes down to relationships. So that was a valuable lesson that I learned last year. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on, what you spoke about there, you spoke about organic reach.
Mhm.
And I mean, to follow up on every single person who engages in your post, like it's a lot of work. So is there like a team that does that? And
Yeah.
and then in addition to that question, is organic more powerful than paid advertising?
Oh, such a good question. So I don't know if it's more powerful. I think you need both. I think
Okay.
the best marketing strategies includes three different kinds of ways to drive traffic: organic, paid, which is your ads, and then what we call leverage, like this, right? It's going on in other people's groups and other people's audiences and other people's podcasts, right? And so we get our clients to have all three of those, right? That's what our goal is with them. So I don't think it's more powerful. I think it really depends on where you are in your business and what you've got, and what resources you've got access to. So for the organic, to answer your other question, we have a team. We put out a post a couple of weeks ago, and it said, I'm giving away our Canva template for quizzes and a video that walks you through. If you want it, comment below. 123 people commented.
Oh, okay.
We are still going through and responding to those comments. Right?
Okay.
And I have a person on my team that we're both doing it. But yeah, so it does take a team. But again, here's the thing: if you need leads, right, you've got to be willing to get out there and put your content in front of people and then respond to those. Now, are all those people going to be leads, like qualified leads? Absolutely not. Are all of those people going to go deeper into the conversation? No. But at the very least, we've got, now we've got at least 123 people that we get to follow up with over the next couple of weeks that we didn't have before. And that's just from one Facebook post. No ads, no nothing. Right?
Yeah. So as a startup business or a startup business owner, obviously paid advertising, you'll have a very limited budget for that. So as a startup business owner, how would you suggest that they would generate organic traffic?
Mm-hmm.
The most organic traffic, rather.
Yeah, the most organic traffic is, well, so it depends. Do they already have a network of people that they're connected to? And
Okay.
people overlook that. Even if you're on LinkedIn and the only people you have that you've ever been connected to are people from your day job, your last day job or past day jobs could be a client for you. Right? So it's reaching out to who do you have access to first. And then if you don't have access to anybody, you've got some networking to do. You've got to build those friendships. Like when we have a program called the Leads Lab. And in that, we talk about the 10 things you want to do on Facebook every day. You can do it on Facebook. You can do it on LinkedIn. You can do it on any of the platforms. But one of the things is you've got to friend at least 25 people a day.
Wow.
If you don't have any friends, how are you? And then when I mean friends, I'm not talking about your buddies, right? Right.
Yeah.
You don't have any people. And so what we do is we'll go into groups, we'll find other people that are connected to our friends, and we'll see who we might want to get to know and invite them to connect with us. But and people say, well, I don't want to do that. But let's be honest, you would do the same thing at a face-to-face networking event. You don't know those people.
Yeah.
And you would
Very
go up to
true.
them. You would go to them, you would introduce yourself, you would learn about them, you would invite them to coffee. It's the same thing online.
Yep, 100%. Nicola, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's brilliant because I think what's happened in the world of online, it's what you said. It's almost as if, can I build a business without getting to know people? And the reality is, I think people buy from people that they know, they like, or they trust. And in the world of online network, what do you call it? Sort of online media, social media, you can like someone. And in this world, you sort of like someone by giving them a thumbs up or a little heart or something like that. Or you like a post. So liking things is actually quite easy online, but it's not necessarily sincere, as it doesn't have a deeper level of like. But the know and the trust can only be built when you find something out about them that you didn't know by looking at their profile. So if you're at a networking event, you start a conversation, you say they seem really nice, you sort of like them because you feel a sense of ease or comfort in their space, or you see how they're engaging with other people. But then the relationship is built when you start to find something out that isn't obvious when you first see them. So that's where the knowing and the trust builds. And as you start to disclose yourself, and I get to know more about you, for example, Tai, your sincerity becomes more apparent. So at a face-to-face event, that's all done with a lot of, from a sort of a neurological point of view, there's all the oxytocin going on, there's all the nonverbals that you experience. Online, it's almost as if you ask similar questions, but you have to pay a different kind of attention because you don't have all of those nonverbals to go with. It was a very interesting conversation I had with a friend at the end of last year. And he'd been online. He's a member of a number of boards. He's in the medical field and he's also in the legal field. And he'd been online in meetings with a whole bunch of people. And then he went to a face-to-face event in another city. And at the event, he was bumping into the people that he'd met online and he didn't recognize them. Because online, you get a very sort of one-dimensional view of somebody. But when you're in a room, you see how tall they are, how wide they are, how they engage. You see different angles of their profiles. The whole energy in a face-to-face environment is different. So I think when we build relationships online, the attention that we have to pay in order to build the relationship is in some ways more intense. You've got to pay a lot of attention so people begin to trust you. So the like and the trust. And any one of those entry points, if you think of it as like a triangle, you can enter the relationship space from any one of these points. Maybe a friend refers you. So I've now got sort of a trusted level engagement. I get to know you by doing what Ty's suggesting. We ask a series of questions and I get to like you because of how I'm engaging with you. Do I feel that I can further this relationship? So I think what Ty's saying is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ty, but what I think what you're saying is just because you're online, it doesn't mean to say you can't build the relationship. You can get away with business. You can't get to this lovely line that you used from being interested, I'm interested, to I'm in. So you're still relationship building, but you're doing it perhaps differently. You're not necessarily always seeing the person. Do you think harder or not? Would you rather go face to face, or I mean, I know we're talking about online marketing, but in your experience, having been a teacher and in a classroom, and you know how it is to build those relationships, do you think it's easier online, or do you think it's harder online?
Oh, wow. I think everybody is different. For me, it's easier online because I'm such an introvert. I'm an introvert and I'm very empathic. And so for a long time, when I would go to networking events, I would be like, why am I feeling all this stuff? Maybe I'm just shy. I'm like, no, I'm not shy. I'm picking up from a lot of other people in this space. And so being at large events with lots of people is actually very draining for me. But I still love speaking. I still love teaching. I still love it. I just have to set really good boundaries around how much I'm going to be in that space. And when I'm ready to leave, I just leave. And I also like it online though. I mean, that's fun for me because I get to, especially when we're like in a Zoom like this, because I get to watch the facial expressions. I know how to watch the nonverbal cues. And I think that's hard for people to do. Like they don't realize how much they pay attention to that. When you're getting into an online space, you do have to learn to do those same things. You have to learn to look at the cues a little bit differently. You have to be very intentional, right? Because the other thing with online is that there's an opportunity to meet so many more people, right? I can go to a networking event and I can have 5 really good conversations. I can be online and in a day I can come across 50 different people. Right?
Yeah.
So you have to be really intentional about the relationships that you're building and who you're following up with.
Okay. So yeah, that is interesting. And earlier what you did and in your bio, but earlier you also did touch on that you obviously you guys focus heavily on lead generation, and we've spoken about the different tools that you can use for marketing: LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever works for you. And I'm really excited to dive into this now, because this is like the core of what I really wanted to learn from you, is the lead generation. Because I did a lead generation course about 3 years ago, and we used Facebook ads, and we used an automation tool for LinkedIn that worked on lead generation. And it was a super, super powerful tool. But something that I learned the hard way is that you really have to niche down, and you really have to know who you need to target. For example, if you're marketing or doing lead gen for a specific business, you need to know exactly who to target and really niche down in that target market. So based on all your business experience and the experience in the businesses that you've worked with, what is your strategy for lead generation?
Oh wow! So, oh goodness, that consultant answer comes up. Is it's going to depend, right? It's how do you get in front of the most people with the right content and the right offers at the right time? That's what lead generation boils down to. And then you also have to be able to do it consistently. Our strategy for generating leads has been using quizzes. When I left my last day job, which was about 6 years ago now, um, I didn't have an email list because while I was working my last day job, I could not have a business on the side. So I had a list of people that was around 2,500 people, but I hadn't talked to them in about 2.5 years. I sent out a link to them to asking them to take my quiz, and within 2 weeks, I had 500 people back on my email list. Yeah, that's how I started my business. But it gets even better. That worked out really well, helped me start my business. A few months later, I said, okay, I need to get this in front of more people. So then I turned to Facebook ads, and I used one quiz and one Facebook ad. And in 4 months, I grew my email list from 1,700 people to over 9,000 people in 4 months. Yeah. And yeah. And well, I was going to say, and you know, that tripled my business, and it filled up my coaching program. And that's how I started helping my clients build quizzes as well.
Okay, so now I'm super interested. So 2,500 and you got 500 replies. That's a 20% conversion rate, sorry.
Yep.
And so I really, really want to know what quizzes are you using? Because there's actually a website that I used to use when I used to teach called Quizziz, which you
Okay.
can actually send out. There's obviously Microsoft Forms, there's Google Forms. So
Yeah.
what tool are you using to generate these quizzes that are so engaging that you're getting such high conversion rates?
Well, I'll give you some stats. So your traditional lead magnet, like a PDF download, you see conversion rates of about 15 to 20%, 25% if you're good. The quizzes that we've developed for our clients, the quizzes that we've used for ourselves, we see anywhere from a 30% to a 70% conversion rate for people
Wow.
that come to those quizzes. And there's several different platforms. Every other day, there's a platform that's coming out where somebody's using, a quiz technology. The one that I use a lot is called Interact. I'm a certified Interact partner. I use them a lot. There's another one I use called Outgrow. Those are the top two in the space that I like to recommend to clients because they're user friendly and they've got lots of good options. And it's not the platform. Well, let me go back. It is the platform, but it's more so about what your quiz is. Like we're not talking about what your, what color is your aura kind of quizzes. Right? We're behavior-based quizzes, right? So it's not like what Harry Potter character are you, not that, but it's more like the quiz that did so well, that very first quiz was, what type of entrepreneur are you? And it gave them some insight as to what kind of business they should start, right? Or we had another client who is who's a gynecologist, and so the quiz was called "Where Did My O Go?" And
Fantastic.
it was all about the libido, right? What happened to your libido for women? And she was helping them figure out, was it stress? Is it medication? Is it your diet? Like what's impacting your libido? And so we come up with some really good hooks that get people engaged. Like remember we talked about, you got to have that thing that engages them, right?
Mhm.
And the quiz is interactive, and people we're all a little bit narcissistic. So we kind of like when things are telling us stuff about us that we didn't know. And that's what a quiz does. Oh, I didn't know I didn't know I like this. I didn't know. And so it's that level of engagement, and it's interactive, it's engaging, and it gives value. Now, the best thing that we love about quizzes for lead generation, as an entrepreneur, I get more data than just your email address, right?
Mm.
So now all of my marketing on the back end, it's going to be so personalized. And my favorite story is for the very first client that I did a quiz for. She had an eyelash company, and I still have the screenshot of it. We sent out emails after the quiz, which is part of what you got to do for that follow-up. And within 2 weeks, the emails that we sent out as follow-ups to the quiz generated $23,000 in sales.
Wow.
And
Wow.
she's selling eyelashes, right? So these are like 79, $89, dollar products, right? But $23,000 in sales, because people were taking the quiz, and the quiz was about what kind of eyelash is right for you. And it would be like, you're the heiress, so you should get these lashes because they'll be perfect for date night. And then people would go and buy the lashes, right?
It's great marketing. It is great marketing. I'm honestly blown away. I've never heard of a lead gen tool or strategy using quizzes. Nicola, have you heard of something like this before?
I've come across it, but I haven't. I mean, the story Ty's just told about the eyelash, it's like a fairly small expense. I think he said $89 or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of eyelashes. And I know what I love about what you're saying, Ty, is that you get more information than an email. So if you think of Don Peppers years ago writing the book One-to-One Marketing, and he wrote then that the future would be personal, very personal. And I think we've hit that point now, because we can get so much more personal information about people that when you're engaging with them, you've got a completely different quality of conversation. And just what Ty said is that we're all a little bit narcissistic. So everybody likes to hear the sound of their own name, and they like to talk about themselves often, or at least have people interested in them. So if you've got that additional data, you can now have a very personal conversation, which builds that trust leg on that sort of three-legged stool.
Yeah.
So I've come across quizzes before. I think we're using quizzes also as a form of research. Ty said at the beginning, it's about research and strategy, and start with the data. So how do you get the data? A quiz is a very accessible way to get additional information on your potential client, lead, or prospect. So it's a tool.
And I want to clarify something here, because when you start talking about research, people automatically start thinking about surveys. And surveys are different. Surveys is me telling you what I know about me, right? I know how many kids I have. I know how many husbands I have, right? I know all those questions. A quiz is giving you information that I didn't have before, right? So, and that's the difference between those. It's not just the facts. It's giving me insight into myself that I didn't know. So now you've given value to me. And you're so right, Nicola. I'm going to trust you a little bit more, because you were interested enough in me, and you gave me some feedback that I didn't know.
Cool.
Yeah,
so going back. Yeah. So going back to what the question I sort of asked you about organic marketing and connecting with those people. Now, when you're marketing to like an email list, like you mentioned, or like, a lot of people, a broad range, when you talk about personalizing, for example, we have an email marketing list tool, and there's only so much you can do there to personalize the email. Like you can put in the format of like first name, and there's all these different templates that you can put in. Do you and your team actually physically personalize each message, or is there a tool or a strategy that you use to make life easier in that sort of sense?
Yeah, so our CRM is Lead Momentum that we use. And it's our in-house CRM, but we actually sell that to our clients to make it easier for them to have everything in one space. But what we do with the quizzes is quizzes allow you to segment your audience. So let's say if you took my quiz, what type of we have a couple of quizzes out there, but we've got a quiz. It's all about what marketing automation will speed up your sales. Right? So let's say you took that quiz and it came back that you don't have any way to automate your lead generation. All of the emails that you get are going to talk about automating your lead gen, right? What the consequences are, like here's some best some best use cases, here's some success stories, here's what you're missing out on, but though you're going to get those emails. Now, another result to that quiz is maybe you're missing out because you don't have an automated follow-up system. But if you have an automated follow-up system, we're not going to send you emails about that. You already have that.
Mm.
All right. And those emails are already done. Like the whole email sequence is already ready. So as soon as you get that tag that this is the problem that you have, we have identified from the quiz, we've segmented what your problem is, and we've got 5 to 7 emails tailored that are going to go out to you automatically.
Gotcha. And for the listeners who are, if we wanted to try, you paint a picture of this, because I actually learned this only a few months ago with the tags and the whole sequence and stuff. And I only learned it because I could visually see it on the course program that I was using. So for the listeners to try simplify it, it's like an if then that scenario, right? So if this happens, then send that email out, for example. If they get to this question, then send that email out. So I hope that kind of clarifies it. Nicola, I don't know if we're going too fast for you to draw and type, but I mean draw and write, but there we go. Fantastic. Cool. It's on the screen. Yeah. And it's a great system that they use, and it works really well.
Yeah.
Nicola, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, the system we used to use in my former business was Salesforce. What you can do, it's a big system, and it's rarely used by small businesses, which is what we were. It's mostly used by large corporations. But what you can build into there is the automated email responses. And you can also, as Tai's saying, suggesting you can segment your database. Now, this isn't new. This has been around for a long time, but how we do it today is a lot more efficient. So many years ago, the credit card companies used to produce, let's say, 20 different credit cards. And what they would do is they would market these credit cards with all these different models and benefits and offerings, and they would send out massive direct mail. So they'd put things in the post, it would arrive in the post, and they would then measure the responses that they got from those different mail shots, is what they were called. And then what they would do is they would say, well, if this one works, we'll send the next one out, but we'll dump those 2 because we didn't get responses, but we're going to target on these 3 or 4 because we got the best hit rate. And then they would send out more, and then they would send out more, until eventually they would launch their campaign with the best offering. Now, that's been done for years, but it was done with direct mail through the post, with paper and plastic in envelopes and postage stamps. And it was a system that worked, but it was largely inefficient because there's always a time delay, and you just couldn't respond so quickly. What you can get now is a faster response, and that's what your market is also expecting. So your speed to market, your time advantage in the online environment is just huge compared to what used to be done. But it also then puts a lot of pressure on the entrepreneur to have to respond quickly as well. Which is stressful.
Or even to take advantage of that opportunity. I mean, we call that in marketing technology now, we call that split testing, right? So we'll set 2 landing pages up, and we'll send 50% to one page, 50% to the other page, and the one that gets us the most response, we're going to go with that one. So it's exactly the same thing, but now it's automated. Right. And if you've got a CRM, like our CRM does that, not all of them do, but if you've got a CRM that does that, it's a great thing to do. But you can even split test Facebook ads, right? So that same methodology of let's put this out here and see what we get back. And again, it's data, right? It's informed. You're making an informed decision about your marketing, which is what I love as a marketer, because it's not just like, well, I feel like this looks good, or I feel like this works. In today's world, if you're going to be successful, you cannot go just by your emotions. You need data. And so we really like being able to make those data-driven decisions. And that's what split testing does.
Tai, your strategy is amazing and your conversion rates are high. But in order to get that proven strategy in place, it couldn't have been easy, right? I mean, any entrepreneur knows this, that to get to being successful, there's a lot of hurdles and stuff along the way. So what were the biggest challenges for you in developing the strategy for lead generation?
Oh, I think the biggest challenge for us was timing. A lot of people don't give things enough time in marketing. We're so spoiled, I think, by the instant successes that we hear people talking about. Well, I got this video and it went viral, or, I did this today and then tomorrow I got 50 new clients. And those things happen. And some of them, sometimes they're flukes, sometimes they're lies. Let's be honest, right? Sometimes people are not telling you the whole story. Um, but we always think about the short term instead of the long term. And so what I had to learn to do was give it time. So, and I'll give you an example. When I first did that quiz and Facebook, when I was first starting to use Facebook ads, I think I'd spent like $500. And what I got was that little notification from Facebook that says, "Hey, we took $500 out of your account." Now it doesn't say that we took $500. That's what it feels like. What? You took $500? And so I shut my ads off. And then my coach said, "Why'd you do that?" I said, "Well, they took $500 out of my account. What do you mean?" And he said, "Yeah, but Tai, what was the return on that? What'd you do?" And I went back and looked, and I had spent $500 over 2 weeks, right? Because we were testing things out, I didn't know what I was doing. I was figuring things out. But here's what happened. I booked 10 sales calls. 2 of those people became paying clients within that same time frame. I spent $500, but I made $8,500 in sales, right? But my thing, oh, I got it has to be quick, and if it doesn't happen on the second day or third day, it's not working. If I had stopped doing, right? And I use this example all the time, and I ask my clients, if you gave me $500 and I turned around and gave you $8,500, how many $500 would you give me, right? You'd keep giving me 500. Exactly, right? And that's when I really started to understand the power of real marketing and Facebook ads. It's not this quick, I'm gonna, do something today and I'm gonna get a $27 sale tomorrow. It's a long-term plan. And that's what people who are really successful in marketing, especially using even organic marketing, but paid traffic, they understand that it's a long-term plan. And one of the things I tell my clients is what you're seeing now in your business is a result of what you did 30, 60, 90 days ago. If you weren't reaching out to people, if you weren't talking to people, you're not going to have any leads. So if you want leads next month, you better start picking up the phone now. You better start getting your content out now because you have to feed that machine.
I totally resonate with what you're saying because I've had failed business ventures where like you did at first, you put money into ads and didn't see results straight away. And then I kind of gave up. Fortunately, you obviously had a coach who was like, hang on, go back and have a look. And then when you see the results, it's like, well, it's a no-brainer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Well, Tai, we'll give you one last question before we let you go. And that is a question that I ask all my guests in whatever topic it is that we're talking about. And that is, what advice would you give to businesses, entrepreneurs who maybe are marketing or maybe haven't really, hit the traction with marketing and lead generation, and they want to get the ball rolling in 2023? What sort of advice would you give to them?
The first thing that comes to mind is start with strategy, please. And I say that because we see a lot of people that jump into something because it looked like it worked for someone else, right? So, oh, somebody did this on TikTok, so now I'm going to do all this TikTok stuff. Is your audience even on TikTok? Well, wait, let's back up. Do you even know who your audience is? Wait, let's back up even further. Do you even know what you're really selling, right? And because there isn't strategy there, it's just like, well, I'm going to put something up on Facebook and then I'm going to get a sale. You have to understand how marketing works and what that strategy is. Those people that you see having that success, they've been doing this a while, right? They have been consistent. They are clear on who their audience is. They know what their messaging is. They put all those things in there. And if you're not willing to invest in understanding the strategy behind it, you're going to be chasing squirrels. I'm going to do this week. I'm going to do this next week. And then you're going to be really, really sad because you're never going to get the traction. So start with strategy. Exactly. Who is your audience? What are you selling? Where are those people? And then go hard after that with your marketing once you get those things nailed down.
So Nicola is a expert in business strategy. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on what Tai said, Nicola.
Yeah, well, Tai, I mean, this is what's the term? Honey. It's like wonderful. Strategy first. And Nick and I have been involved in a fairly new online business. And we spent a couple of months just talking about strategy. And I think we've actually got to the point where we possibly need to tweak it. But starting with the brand strategy, the business strategy, so we don't end up going in a whole bunch of other directions. So what you're saying there, Tai, is spot on. I'm very interested, though, is that when you said, where are those people? So it's also about customer segmentation and knowing very clearly what your niche is. And many years ago, I actually went on an Anthony Robbins business course in London. And on that, it's if you are sharply focused and you absolutely understand who your customer is and the value proposition. And you don't have to have millions of customers. You have to just have enough customers in that niche. And you can run a very successful business. You know, it's like the eyelash person. You know, a very popular thing in Africa is hair extensions. It's a very specific market. You don't have to sell, you know, makeup to the hair extension industry. You can actually do extremely well in hair extensions, eyelashes, nail bars, car washing. We often joke about laundromats. You know, I just love the idea that you narrow your focus rather than broaden your focus. And I think more businesses succeed that way than when you go into mass markets. Because when you know that classical sort of, you know, you've got the innovators up front and then you've got the laggards at the end. And the mass market is where you sort of go viral and get the appeal and people develop unicorns. But those unicorn businesses always start with someone who's an innovator at the start. So if you can be niche, you don't have to be in the mass market, because the minute you enter mass market, your margins change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good. Cool.
What's the second one?
Awesome. Well, Tai, thank you so much for being so open and honest and giving us all this juicy information about tools and strategies and your experience. But before we let you go, we would like to know, where can people find you? Where can our viewers and our listeners find you? What's the best place to connect with you? What's the platform that you use, or platforms that you use?
Yeah. Well, on all the platforms, you can always find me at Tai Goodwin, TaiGoodwin. And that's LinkedIn, that's Instagram, that's Facebook. I'm even out there on TikTok. It's struggling, though. I'm trying to figure out how to use that. But then, you know, for people who are interested in quizzes, we actually have a quiz on quizzes. Like, how could I not, right?
Yeah.
So thatmarketingteam.com/quiz. There's a quiz and it'll help you figure out which kind of quiz is right for your business. So there you go.
Cool. That's something that we'll definitely get on. You might get a new ThinkerNick on your email list tomorrow. Fantastic. Well, Tai, thank you very much for your time.
Before Tai goes, sorry.
Yeah.
You said you've got a CRM platform that you've built yourself.
Well, we white label it. So there's a platform called Go High Level. And our version of that is Lead Momentum. And it's got all of our templates and all the stuff that we give our clients in there for flawless follow-up and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Great to know.
And is it like gohighlevel.com?
Nope, it's leadmomentum.com.
Oh, Lead Momentum. I'm sorry. Okay.
Cool. Well, we'll pull that up on the screen there. Lead Momentum.
Yeah, I got
fantastic.
It
cool. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Tai. We really appreciate it. And hopefully this won't be the last time we have you on the podcast. Your information is invaluable to me, to Nicola, and to all of our guests. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Okay. Thank you, Tai. Cheers. Bye. Bye, Nicola.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Tai. That was wonderful.
For more news and content about ThinkerNick, go to www.thinkernick.com or visit our Facebook or Instagram pages at ThinkerNick.